Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is Somojit Banerjee from Kolkata chapter, ISHRE of Kolkata chapter. And on behalf of ISHRE Kolkata chapter, I welcome you all. So we have around 70 participants as on 18:34 hours. I request everybody to please keep their videos as well as their mics on mute because there is a lot of bandwidth which happens. So we would be losing out on some excellent presentation today. And it's my proud privilege to have Mr. Nirja Chakravarti, a veteran in HVAC field as a veteran in ISHRE, Kolkata chapter, amongst our midst, to share something which is very, very new to a lot of us, including me. And this is a topic which I had requested Nirja quite some time back. He had done the same presentation last year. It was so nice, and so I wanted to have it again. So I'm sure this we are going to be students in this uh, program today, and this is going to have a lot of knowledge sharing with everybody. So before I hand over the system to Mr. Nirjar, uh, I'll just share about his credentials. Mr. Nirjar Chakrabarti is a Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering from Jadavpur University and a postgraduate diploma in business management from Symbiosis Pune. He has a professional experience of over 20 years in HVAC field, currently working as regional head business to business, that is B2B East, in Johnson Controls Hitachi Air Conditioning India Limited. He is currently holding the position as membership chair in ASHRE, Kolkata chapter, as well as training chair in ISHRE, Kolkata chapter. So it's my proud privilege to welcome him to this august gathering. And now I would hand over the mic to Mr. Nirjar to take the presentation forward. And let's all be attentive enough and patient enough to listen to his presentation. Whatever queries you can have, you can please put it in the chat box. And then once we complete presentation, then Mr. Nirjar would be too kind to answer all of our queries, and I would be asking as a moderator the questions to him, whatever has been placed on the chat box. So I hope this is fine with everybody. I only request everybody please keep their mic on mute. This is an earnest request, otherwise there will be background noise. So a lot of important deliberations can be made. So over to you, Nirjar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Shomojit, for your kind introduction. And I am privileged to be a part of this webinar, and which I have been requested to, on behalf of ISHRE, to present this very uh, good subject, I would say, on marine air conditioning and ventilation. Marine air conditioning and ventilation, as you can understand, it's a very vast subject. So it is not easy to cover entire marine air conditioning ventilation in a span of 1 or 2 hours. It may be requiring maybe a month or so. But I would just touch upon the basics of this marine air conditioning and ventilation, only to the passenger vessel, because as you know, in the marine field there are different types of vessel, different types of ships are available. So I will only concentrate on passenger ship. So how we do, how we do the air conditioning and ventilation system. So let's start. So the topic which I will cover. So first, the different types of the introduction of different types of ship which are there in the marine industry. Different classification societies or approval authorities which are there in the marine AC field. Different terminologies associated with the ship. Typical passenger ship deck layout. And most important, to start with, what is the difference between land and marine air conditioning? I'll give a brief on that. And type of deck and bulkhead as per the SOLAS rules and regulations. There are different rules and regulations which are there in the marine industry. So I'll touch on that. And one important thing I'll touch about the design procedure for ship's AC and ventilation system, how we do the heat load calculation for the ship, different type of marine AC system which are available in marine industry, different type of heating system which are there, and different types of refrigeration system as well as marine ventilation system. So broadly, I will cover all these points. So let's start with different types of ships which are there in the marine industry. So as you see, I'll put the laser pointer also. So if I classify the different types of ships or motor vessel, the ships, every ship is named by MV, motor vessel. So the ships are broadly categorized into 5 or 6 categories. First is container ship, which carries the container, different types of container which carries. And depending on the size of the container ship, this is again classified into Panamax, Sumax, post-Panamax, post-Sumax, post-Malacamax, and refrigerated container ship. Now, what is Panamax, Sumax? Panamax is Panama Canal. You are aware of Panama Canal. This ship is one of the biggest vessel which can go through this Panama Canal. So based on that, it is named Panamax. And the bigger version, which is nowadays available, is post-Panamax, bigger version of the Panamax ship. Now, what is Suezmax? This similarly like Panamax, there is a Suez Canal which is there. This ship can go through this Suez Canal. So based on that, it is named Suezmax. And bigger version of Suezmax is post-Suezmax. Similarly, post-Malacamax, as you know, Malacca is Malacca is a canal between Indonesia and Malaysia. So this ship can go through this canal. So based on that, it is named post-Malacamax. And there is also refrigerated container ship, which is available in the marine industry. So these cover the entire container ship, which is there. Now comes to bulk carrier. Now bulk carrier, this is a ship which carries the cargo in a big quantity. It is called bulk carrier. So it is further classified into conventional bulker, combined bulker, gearless bulker, self-discharging bulker, trams, and cargo liner. Now, what is conventional bulker? Now, unlike container ship, which has got the different container to carry, it doesn't have any container. So it has got cargo hold, the space to carry the cargo inside the ship. So this is called conventional bulker. Conventional bulker has a big hatch inside to carry the cargo, and also there are conveyor, there are cranes for the loading and unloading purpose. That is a conventional bulker. Now, what is combined bulker? Combined bulker is a carrier which can carry both oil as well as your cargo. So it has got the pipeline for the oil, as well as it has got the big cargo hold to carry the cargo. So it is a combined bulker. So it can act as a bulk carrier as well as tanker. So it is called combined bulker. And another vessel is gearless bulker. Gearless bulker, gear, as you know, it is meant the crane and the conveyor. So this kind of bulker doesn't have any crane or any kind of conveyor inbuilt. So the port where there is no crane or no conveyor for loading unloading purpose, this bulker cannot go. So only for those ports where there is enough facility for this loading unloading by the crane or the conveyor, this bulker can go. So it has got limitation. Self-discharging bulker, so it has got the conveyor to discharge the container. And there is another classification called tramp. Tramp is a ship which is mainly engaged in the tramp trade. There is a marine industry that is called tramp trade. Is one which does not have any fixed schedule or any published port of call. So it doesn't have any schedule. So unscheduled vehicle. So that is called tramps. And there is another classification is cargo liner, also known and knows at this is also known as passenger cargo ship. So it can act as both passenger vessel as well as cargo ship. So it is a dual purpose vessel. So this is as far as bulk carrier is concerned. Now coming to tanker. Tanker is a vessel which carries the liquid, different types of liquid. Liquid or say. One is oil tanker. So it's the most common type of tanker is oil tanker, and there is a liquefied gas tanker, a carrier, and chemical tanker. These three type of tanker is normally there in the field. Now coming to next.
गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय हम पता
Can't hear you.
Jerry,
Yeah.
Switch off your pointer, otherwise not be able to proceed forward. So you switch off your pointer and then go to the next slide.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Now there is the other type of classification is ship is passenger ship. So passenger ship is further classified into ferries, liner, cruise ship, pilgrimage ship. Ferries are the ship which normally goes for a smaller distance. Liner, cruise ship, this is the passenger vessel for the longer distance, and cruise ship, as you know, this is for the leisure purpose ship. Pilgrimage ship is mainly for the pilgrims. So these are as far as the passenger ships are concerned. Then comes the naval ship. Naval ship is a very special kind of ship. In naval ship, there are further classified different types of naval ships like aircraft carrier, destroyer, frigate, corvette, submarines, amphibious assault ship. So these are the very common terms which you come across for the naval ship. Then another type of vessel which is offshore ship. Offshore, offshore ships, offshore platforms are there. Offshore platform mainly used for the drilling and rigging of the oil, for the extraction of the oil. These offshore platforms are used. And there are different support vessels to feed this offshore ship or offshore platform. One is supply ship, that is a support vessel, pipe layers, which is used to lay the pipes for the offshore platform, crane barge, drill rigs are used for the rigging purpose, drill ship, then accommodation barge, production platform, that is a main platform which is used for the this offshore platform. Then floating storage unit, anchor handling unit of the vessel, anchor handling vessel, diving vessel. So these are the different types of offshore vessel available in the marine industry. Apart from that, there are special purpose vehicle, or we call it specialty vessel, which are tugs, starting from the tugs. So tugs is for the towing purpose. Towing of any big vessel, tugs are required. There's a small ship which takes the big ship from the port to the main point where the ship sails, and reverse at the time of anchoring also, it takes the ship from the one point to the port. So this is the tugs. Tenders is also a support vessel which is required for transferring passenger from, is a small vessel from one ship to, or one boat to other boat, or one ship to the other ship. So this is the tender. Pilot craft, that is mainly used for the piloting purpose. Cable layers, that is for the laying cable. research vessel, barge, dredger. So these are the common terms which most of you are aware of these different types of ship. Now I will come to the classification society of the ship. So unlike land air conditioning, in ship there are very stringent rules and regulation in each and every aspect, starting from the ship construction, then maintenance, regular maintenance. Everywhere there is different rules and regulations are involved, and so that the every ship company or the ship is compliant to that rules or regulations, there are different classification society which ensure that all these compliance are met. So a classification society is of course a non-government organization that establish and maintain the technical standard, starting from the construction to the operation of the ship, maintenance of the vessel. And classification societies certify that construction of the vessel comply with the relevant standard, carry out regular survey to ensure the continuing compliance with the standard. So it starts from the construction, then to the operation, then to the maintenance. So everywhere these societies are involved. So if you see the societies, this ABS, I have given the logos, American Bureau Standard, DNV, Des Norske Veritas, which is of Germany, Lloyd Register of Shipping, that is of UK, Bureau Veritas of France, and International Apex Body, International Association of Classification Society. This is the Apex Society, which comprises of 12 members of different classification society. This is a main Apex Society. And India, we have Indian Register of Shipping. So these are the main classification bodies across internationally available. And India, we have got IRS, Indian Register of Shipping. And we have another body which is called Mercantile Marine Department, MMD. The function of this is a government body. This function under DG Shipping, DGS, and Ministry of Shipping, whose main function is the registration of the seagoing vessel. So any seagoing vessels, the registration is obtained from MMD for Indian seagoing vessel. This is India for India, and it carries out regular survey, certification of merchant ship, and most importantly, it conducts examination of seafarers, issuance of fitness certificate. So if one has to upgrade from, let's say, second officer to first officer to chief engineer, they have to go through the examination. These examinations are conducted by this Mercantile Marine Department. This is applicable for the admin or the navigation seafarers also. So for the captain and below rank, so upgrade to the captain. So this, whatever examination, whatever certification is required, that is given by MMD. So this is broadly the function of the classification society. And another important thing is, without this certification, without the certification from certification from the classification society, a classification certificate is issued by this classification society. Without that, the ship will not be able to register themselves, and they cannot obtain any marine insurance from the relevant authority. So you can understand what is the importance of this classification society as a whole. Okay. Next, I'll talk to very basic thing of ship, very basic terminology before going forward. So before going to the details. So what are the normal terminology of a ship or naval architecture, you can say? So bow, the forward-most part of any vessel. This is the plan view of a deck of a ship. So the forward-most point, this is the tip. The forward-most point is called bow, and opposite to that, the furthermost point is called rearmost point, or is called stern. Forward is anything towards the bow. Anything is referred towards the bow is called forward, and anything towards the stern is called aft. So this is forward and this is aft. So nobody call it, I'm going towards this in the ship. They call, this is forward, this is aft. So these terminologies are used in any ship. Now, other terminologies like port side. Port side is the left-hand side of a ship looking towards bow. So if anybody stands here and he is looking towards bow, this is the forward side, then left side is the port side and right side is the starboard side. So this is the thing. And similarly, outboard and inboard. Outboard is away from the center line of the ship towards the side of the ship. This is outboard towards the side of the ship. This is outboard. And similarly, the opposite, inboard towards the center line of the ship is inboard. So these are the very common terms which are used in marine industry. And now talking about what is hull. Hull, hull is a total structure, total body of a ship, including shell plating, framing, deck, bulkhead. So I have captured one cross section of a ship. So this is the main body of the ship is called hull. So it looks like that. And you can see there are a couple of members are there, like transverse beam, longitudinal beam, all these beams are there. And there are, now what is deck? You see there is term called deck. Deck, any horizontal surface of any ship is called deck. And like ceiling in land, so deck is similar term is deck. And what is bulkhead? Like wall in the land air conditioning or land. This is in ship. This is bulkhead. Any vertical member or vertical surface is called bulkhead. And you see this is the transverse frame. This frame going like that. This is the longitudinal frame. So how the ship is constructed, you can get a rough idea about this. There are some deck beams are there. So this is a very basic preliminary idea about ship terminology and construction, all this. I'll go to next slide. Yeah. Okay. Now I'll come to the typical deck layout of what are the terminology of a ship. So start from if you see the picture. This picture is of a this is very familiar picture of a passenger ship or a cruise liner. So there are different types of decks are there, like starting with the bridge deck, where this is called wheelhouse or navigation station. Also from there, the entire navigation takes place. The wheelhouse is there. So captain sits here with his assistant. So this is the topmost. It is located somehow here. Sorry, bridge deck is here. Okay, and sun deck or weather deck, that deck which is not roofed and thus open to atmosphere, that is called sun deck or weather deck. And it is the uppermost deck on the ship which is exposed to environment. So this is your observation. This is your sun deck. This is the sun deck. This is the sun deck. Upper deck, the deck that covers the hull of the vessel from its fore to its aft, is the upper deck. The entire span of the length from the fore to the aft, fore is the forward and aft is upper deck. It is the topmost deck of the ship. In all vessels, is the biggest deck among the other deck. Then comes to main deck. Main deck is a main primary deck of any vessel, where the main accommodation, main cabins, passenger, everything is there. So that is the main deck. Then lower deck located below the main deck is called lower deck. And lower deck are also in different. There are different levels of lower deck. That may be 2, 3 lower decks are available. Twin deck. The twin deck actually means an empty space separating the two other decks in a hull or a vessel. So mainly a void space. A void space is called twin deck. In between the two decks, so that is mainly used for the storage purpose, storage of cargo and other things. Promenade deck is a deck around the superstructure. It can have open railing and can be enclosed in glass. So this is the side LA's sideways of any deck area, that is called promenade deck. Forecastle deck is a upper deck forward of the foremost part of the ship with sailor living quarter. Somewhere like this. This is some deck like here. It is forecastle deck. Similarly, the opposite in the rear end, there is pop deck, the aftermost and the highest deck of the ship, especially in a sailing where it is typically from the roof of a cabin in the stern area. Somewhere here it is pop deck. So this is the normal terminology of the deck, the location of a typical passenger vessel. Now, type of deck and bulkhead as per SOLAS. Now, what is SOLAS? SOLAS is a convention that is safety of life at sea. That is called SOLAS. So, different rules here to comply with the SOLAS. The main thing which is most important is SOLAS is fire safety, and also there is a safety of water tightness. So as you know, the ship is not a static entity like a building. So as it is moving, so a lot of safety, a lot of precaution are required to be taken in terms of safety of life. So that's why this SOLAS rule has been implemented. This convention has been implemented. So based on SOLAS, so deck and bulkheads are rated. There are different classes of decks and bulkheads. So mainly three types of decks or bulkheads are there. One is class A, class B, and class C. So any bulkhead or deck, of course, is constructed by steel or equivalent, suitably stiffened. And what is the main characteristic of class A deck or bulkhead is that it can prevent the passage of smoke or flame at the end of 1 hour standard fire test. So it can, in case of fire, it can withstand the smoke or flame from the affected zone to other zone by 1 hour. So this is the characteristic of class E deck or bulkhead. Now this class A bulkhead, this is with the insulated non-combustible material. It is made of insulated and non-combustible material, and the average temperature on unexposed side does not rise above 130 degrees centigrade, and any point temperature above 180 degrees centigrade under any circumstances. This is the characteristic of this kind of deck or bulkhead. And time duration for which this bulkhead complies to that governs is class. So A class bulkhead again further divided to A60, A30, A15, A0. So the time up to which it can withstand this temperature rise, that depending on that, it can be further classified into 4 categories. One is A60, it can withstand the temperature up to 60 minutes. A30, it can withstand temperature up to 30 minutes. A15, it can withstand temperature up to 15 minutes. And A0 is a 0 minute. So depending on the time, it can further classify. Then class B division. This difference of class A and class B, that in case of class B, it can withstand the spread of smoke or flame up to 1 hour, and it can, for class B, it can withstand the flame, the passage of flame up to half an hour, that is 30 minutes. It is also constructed of non-combustible material, insulated such that the rise of temperature is 139 degrees centigrade, and point temperature is 225 degrees centigrade above the original. So in this case, this is 180, and here this for class B, this is up to it has given the flexibility up to 225 degrees centigrade above the original temperature. So it is further classified into
let's
B15 and B0, depending on the time it can withstand the temperature. There is another classification, that is class C. This is normal bulkhead or deck, which is also constructed by non-combustible material as per approved SOLAS or classification society. However, there is no requirement to meet any kind of rise temperature, any time rise of temperature, smoke, flame to the unaffected side. Like here, there is time is given for this passage to prevent the passage of smoke or flame is 1 hour, half an hour. But in this case, there is no restriction like that. So this is the basic 3 categories of deck bulkhead which are there in the ship. Now comes to our main point of discussion. What is the difference between marine and land air conditioning? So as you see, marine and land air conditioning, the marine, in case of marine air conditioning, or the ship sails in the marine environment, which is a high humid environment, high saline environment, and for which it have to have the AC equipment are required to be selected such a way it has the anti-corrosion, the moisture-proof performance of the system. So it is required to be so material of construction of the parts which comes in contact with the air or water should be like that. It is required to be anti-corrosive. It can withstand the corrosion effect. Next, when the ship is sailing, it can tilt or sway, or other term we can have rolling or pitching due to winds and waves. So air conditioning equipment should have the anti-tilt or rocking capabilities. So special type of mounting are used for this AC equipment or AC machineries. When marine air conditioner are in marine environment, the most affected unit of any part is either it is air cooled or mainly in marine field. Sea water cooled condenser are mostly used, not seawater. Very seldom it is condenser are used. So for any seawater cooled condenser or any type of condenser are used in the ship, that should consider the problem of seawater, salt-free corrosion, all these things. The operating environment, another most important thing is that the operating environment of ship that varies depending on the geographical location, especially for any vessel which plies from one country to the other country. So the AC system should be designed such that it should be adaptive. It should be able to serve the air conditioning purpose throughout the extreme weather, whether it is extreme hot, tropical weather, whether it is a cold weather. So air conditioning system should be designed such a way it can adapt all these environment, extreme weather condition. Other most important thing is that AC ventilation system complies to different rules norms, which I have already explained by the convention of SOLAS, especially for fire safety and water tightness norm. So these are most important thing. Of course, fire safety is there for the land also. Definitely, land AC also fire safety and all these rules are there. But in case of marine air conditioning, there is apex body, apex classification societies are there, which has the guideline, which has all the rules and everything in place, and we have to comply to that. And another point which I missed, that in case of marine air conditioning, the amount of fresh air which is given for an AC system is much more than land AC. So land AC is fresh air is calculated about 10% of the total dehumidified air, but in this case, it goes up to 25%. So ACs are selected based on more fresh air. Because main reason is that in case of ship, there is the things is totally enclosed and your infiltration load is very less. because most of the doors are watertight doors, most of the decks watertight, watertight your windows. So your openings are very less. So it's a very enclosed. So fresh air has to be imparted more in case of marine AC. Now come, I'll go in a slightly details in terms of design procedure for ships AC and ventilation system, this is mainly taken from which is mainly followed and can be followed for passenger ship as well. So very good way it is described, what is the design procedure, the calculation of load calculation and the design total entire procedure. So what they're saying key entire air conditioning ventilation design process can be detailed in the three separate design process. One is concept studies, one is feasibility studies, one is detailed design studies. Now, concept study is a very basic initial information, initial study, that is conceptual stage in a new design philosophy, new design policy criteria that is there in case of conceptual studies. Feasibility study, this is study which particular to the particular ship design, whether these conceptual studies or applicability of that is taken into consideration in case of feasibility study. So in feasibility study, the information which are required, one is design condition, ship subdivision. Subdivision policy means the location of the watertight cover, bulkhead, the fire smoke zone, ventilation zone. So these informations are required, taken, is gathered in these feasibility studies. Then the information like compartment details, size, manning, function, deck bulkhead details are also taken in these studies. So during this stage, what are the details are prepared? So this is almost similar to what we do in case of very big land air conditioning project also. But there is slight difference. Like in this case, design, we make a table giving the details of requirement. The table should be include the compartment name, location, summer or winter condition to be maintained, inside condition, the exhaust requirement, noise level, the details of the people are there, manning details, equipment heat emission, any additional details. So this is almost similar to what we do in case of land air conditioning, almost similar. But here there are some difference. Like here, there are some machine many of the equipment goes through the approval process from the classification society. So there is separate statement or statement of technical requirement is prepared for both AC and ventilation machineries, especially for the all AC equipment, their fittings, their ventilation fans, their fittings, most of them require the approval to fit certificate from classification society. This is absolutely required for any marine, any naval ship, and in passenger vessel also. This approval is also required in most of the machineries. So this is a statement is prepared about these machineries and fittings. What are the things to be approved? Then selection of the chilled water plant. For big vessel, mainly chilled water plant is used, and small or medium vessel, DX plant is used. I'll come into details in the next slide, what type of chilled water plant is used for the different type of vessel. Then calculation of the air quantities, chilled water flow for all system, that is also calculated. Supply and exhaust ventilation system requirement for each individual zone, machinery space. Identification of the compartment to be pressurized. Some of the compartment is required to be pressurized by direct supply of fresh air to prevent the infiltration of the smoke. Calculation of the duct size, piping size, electrical load requirement, weight table. So these are the information which is prepared during this stage. And the last stage is detailed design stage. In this stage, full layout drawing of the compartment and space are produced. which accurately show the final position, size of all chilled water condenser pipe, air conditioning, trunking, equipment, fitting, controls associated with AC and ventilation system. So this is the detailed drawing is prepared in this case. But what is the difference? The difference from land air conditioning is this point, which is to be taken into consideration. This drawing to be prepared to demonstrate the method of handling heavy equipment such as fans, heat exchanger, air filtration unit, ATU or AHU in congested areas to enable repair or replacement of this equipment to be carried out at sea. This is the part, distinguishing part, which is different from land, because in land everything we can, the serviceability can be done anytime anywhere by the service person or particular OEM, but in sea there is no other person apart from the person who are there on board sea, that is the engineering staff. So the details of detailed drawing is required to be prepared in the very initial stage, that in case of any failure or how the things, how the repair and replacement of this equipment can be done, how the things can be removed from the main placement area. So that detailed drawing is prepared in this stage. Now coming to heat load calculation. Heat load calculation, the main difference I would come in the next slides. So here for load calculation, first of all, one thing is there, in case of ship, we have to have 2 seasons at least heat load calculation. One is summer and one is winter, heating load as well as cooling load. Hello. So there are some international bodies, international approved different association or methods are there which specify the selection procedure, how the heat load can be done. So this is, one is BS-RIA, ESTM, then CIBAC, and most commonly used standard which is used for any heat load calculation for ship is ISO 7547. So this is most authentic body organization from where standard, from where this the heat load calculation is done. Now these are the different temperature for in case of cooling load calculation: hot climate, tropical, temperate summer, temperate zone. You know, it's a in between zone from tropical to polar. In that area, in between, this kind of weather persists. So this is the temperature range, ambient temperature, and cold climate. One is temperate winter, subarctic, arctic. So these are the temperature. This is the ambient temperature, which are this is the standard which is followed. And what are the inside temperature? Inside temperature is the compartment, all the living compartment. This is the temperature which is 27-degree dry bulb and 90-degree wet bulb. This is the standard which is followed. And galley area, in galley, you know, I mean, who doesn't know the galley is the kitchen area. So in kitchen area also some spot cooling is required, and the temperature is inside temperature required is 34.5 dB and 26-degree wet bulb. In case of temperate summer also, this is the inside temperature. This is the galley temperature is this one, 29.5, 21.5. And in all cold climate, the inside temperature of 22 degrees centigrade is required to be maintained. This is the minimum temperature is required to be maintained. Now, what about the ventilated surface? So in case of ventilated surface or ventilated spaces, if it is not clearly mentioned in any specification or ship specification, so generally all spaces except galley and this area are electrical compartment, auxiliary machine, the temperature maintained is 5 degrees centigrade above the weather ambient temperature. So this is the temperature required to be maintained. Galley and unmanned electrical compartment, the temperature is higher, 10 degrees centigrade above the ambient temperature. Main and large auxiliary machine spaces, temperature rise is restricted up to 15 degrees centigrade. And in case of cold climate, all the operating condition is 13 degree minimum, and main and large auxiliary machinery room 10 degree centigrade degree minimum. So this is the standard for ventilation. Now, in case of cooling and heating load calculation, what are the assumption we make? So assumption almost similar to what we do in case of land air conditioning. So, but since the terminology is different, there is take bulkhead. So there is slight difference. So solar radiation occurs on exposed surface, weather deck, and both sides of the ship simultaneously. So as you know, the ship, there are two different sides. So we consider both the side the solar radiation occurs on the exposed surface, except for compartment extending to the full width of the vessel. If there is any compartment which extend to the entire length of the vessel, then one side of solar radiation is considered only. No shade is cast by the superstructure, funnel, mast. So no shading load. We take the shading load in case of land air conditioning, but here no shading load is applicable. Internal wild heat sources, that is a heat load emitted by the equipment, that is taken at the maximum value. And maximum number of person in each compartment is considered. So this is almost similar to land. In case of heating condition, the internal, so in case of heating, as you know, we have to consider the least heat generated inside the compartment, inside the space, and we have to take maximum load which is getting emitted from the particular area or particular space. So internal load which is emitting any heat source, that is to be considered at minimum value, that is maximum into 40%. No heat gained by the people, no heat gained from the adjacent compartment where maintained temperature is not. So non-AC area, no heat gain is considered, no heat gain from solar radiation. Heat gain from fan and motor is same as per the cooling condition. Heat is lost to the adjacent cooler space, so we have to consider that load mainly, which is lost to the adjacent cooler space or cooler ambient. It is lost to the superstructure to sea and air. So mainly we have to consider the load which is getting out of the space, the negative load. The calculation of the heat gain loss. So method of calculation. So this is the calculation mainly for the transmission loss or transmission gain. Then similar to our, we do the land heat load calculation. The transmission loss phi is delta T into kV into AV plus kg into AG. So delta T is the temperature difference between the AC and the space to be air conditioned and non-AC space. AV is the heat transfer area. AV is the surface or area excluding the window. The similar thing we do for land AC also. But in this case, we take the heat load, transmission load for window as well. For this kg is a heat transfer coefficient for the window, and AG is a window area. Window may be two types. One is this rectangular window or square window, and circular window, which is often found in ship. So this heat transfer, the transmission load through this window is also considered. Now these are the temperature difference between the adjoining internal spaces. When any space we are doing heat load calculation that is not exposed to any environment, which is not exposed to environment, which is adjoining to any area. So in that case, what kind of delta T we consider, that is given in this chart. This is the excerpt from ISO 7547 only. Like if there is a tank, we have to take 43, any heated tank, any boiler room, we have to take 28. So these temperature difference we have to take, and we have to put in the previous this delta T in case there is any adjoining area which has got any heat resource. And Heat transfer coefficient are also given in this chart. So from this chart, we can put the heat transfer coefficient for the particular weather deck or bulkhead. So based on this, we can have this phi. That is the total heat transfer loss or gain. Now, there is another heat gain, that is solar heat gain, radiation heat gain. Radiation heat gain also similarly, we can find the radiation heat gain. The phi is equal to summation of area, heat transfer coefficient, delta TR, that is a temperature difference. And in case of this is for the glass surface, there is heat transfer, heat gain. There is some standard values are there which we put, it is given below. So delta TR is the excess temperature above the outside temperature plus 35 caused by solar radiation, and delta TR generally for the vertical light surface. Vertical light surface is the your bulkhead, your dark surface, vertical dark surface, bulkhead with the dark any color or anything is there. So in that case, it's 29. Then horizontal light surface, horizontal dark surface. So these delta TR we can put from this here, and we can get the value. In case of glass surface area, AG is the total glass surface area we take. It is a clear opening, and GS is the heat gain per square meter. These values are given as this is as per ISO 7547. For clear glass, generally two type of glass is used in a ship. One is clear glass and with a glass with the interior shading. So these values are normally taken 350 watt per square meter and 240 watt per square meter. Now heat gain from the person is almost similar to your land AC. These are the values: 70, 50, sensible, latent, sit at rest, medium, heavy work, 85, 150. So these are the values which we take for heat gain from the person. Now heat gain from the lighting and other sources, that is also given. This incandescent, fluorescent, these are the values you take and put it in the heat load sheet. Now another heat gain is there in case of galley. In galley also we do the heat load calculation. We have, as I already mentioned, some inside temperature, some comfortable temperature is required to be maintained in galley. So while doing the calculation of heat load calculation in galley, we take this consideration into account. So galley, there are different types of galley kitchen equipment which emits the heat, like shallow fryer, deep fryer, hot plate, grills, kettling, kettle, other items. So for heat, how much heat is emitted, for calculating that, generally this standard is followed. For galley equipment, maximum electric power input, to calculate that, we employ a diversity factor of 0.2 in case of thermostatically controlled item and 0.5 for manually switched heat controller item. So these values are put like fryer. These are all thermostatically controlled. We put the value of 0.2 on the total kilowatt, input kilowatt, we get the heat emitted value. So this way the total galley equipment load is calculated, and then we put a diversity factor of 50% or 0.5, then we get the 28.5, like in this case 28.5 for example. So this way the total heat emission is calculated in case of galley. Now come to the very interesting point, that is different type of marine AC system or marine AC plant, I would say, that is used in the ship. So basically two type of system is used. One is central unit, in which air is distributed to a larger space or volume, larger zone, and one is self-contained type, which is to serve to a particular space, particular cabin. self-contained type. So self-contained type, I would say split type of AC is used in case of small vessel or small ship, a small boat, you can say, or yacht also. This self-contained type, that is 1:1 split ACs are also used. But for the any medium or bigger vessel, they always go for either DX plant or marine chiller. Now, what is DX plant? There are a lot of students there, so I've explained what is DX plant. DX plant is a direct expansion type plant which is connected by copper pipe. So you have one condensing unit located in the plant room. In case of ship, that is engine room, the main AC plant is located, and the main AC plant is condensing unit. Apart from the evaporator part is located outside, that is AHU. So, and it is connected by the copper pipe. So it is direct expansion. No secondary refrigerant is there. Only the primary refrigerant is only circulated through the entire piping system. So that is called a DX pipe. So DX system is used in case of small or medium vessel like steamer. Huh? Hello. Some cross talking going on. If you can switch off, mute the audio, please. Everybody is requested. Okay, so DX plant. In the DX plant, in the engine room, the main condensing unit is located, and same is connected to the central air handler located in the main deck or upper deck, and it is connected with the insulated copper pipe. Air is distributed through duct to the different part of the ship. And next is a marine chiller. Marine chiller, where chiller is placed in the engine room and connected with the multiple AHUs to feed to the different zone, different areas of the ship by means of chilled water pipe. So marine chiller is used for the big vessel, passenger ship, cruise liner, container, naval ship, other all kind of ship. These marine chillers are used. Now, this is a typical, very basic drawing of a chilled water plant. This is a very basic drawing. So, as you see, the condenser, the seawater, raw water is taken. There is one strainer would be there, seawater strainer. Through that, the water is taken and it is taken to the condenser. And this is the refrigeration circuit inside the chiller. This is very basic circuit. And types of compressor which is used in a ship. Many old ships still using the reciprocating compressor. Still, a lot of ships, old ship, they are still using reciprocating compressor. Then there are scroll compressor, mid-size plant scroll compressor, screw compressor, and centrifugal compressor for very big ship. And also some of the ship use the absorption plant, because in any ship, steam is the waste heat is available in terms of steam or hot water. So that using the waste heat, the absorption chiller can use a waste heat, and absorption chiller are there in many ships.
Okay.
Types and construction of the condenser, which is generally used. So condenser construction is a very important part in any marine chiller. So generally shell and tube type condenser are used, and generally the condenser tube is made of 90-10 cupronical tube. So cupronical is a copper nickel alloy with a percentage of 90-10, and it is C resistance power of this particular alloy is very high. So most of the condenser uses this 90-10 or 70-30, this proportion cupronical tube. Marine standard or Coast Guard standard all uses this 90-10 cupronical tube. Even for the not only inside the condenser, but naval standard is that also the condenser pipe that has to be made of 90-10 cupronical tube to take care of corrosion. The condenser head is to be made of cast bronze, and due to rolling and pitching operation, double liquid outlet is given in most of the condenser. and anti-corrosive coating in the end cover and other parts of the condenser. So material of construction for condenser is very critical in terms of seawater resistance. Some important accessories, seawater strainer, as I already told, seawater strainer is important part so that the seawater, whatever impurities are there, that can be strained, that can be filtered out. So that is an important part for a condenser circuit. And another important thing is the zinc anode or zinc protector, which is required to be given at the entry point, the flange connection between condenser and seawater piping. So as you know, zinc is, it's much prone to corrosion. It's much prone to corrosion. So zinc is corroded fast, then comes to steel part, MS part, and other parts. So for the corrosion purpose, this zinc anode is given so that it can be corroded faster without impacting the other parts of the condenser. Now come to the refrigeration plant. This is the typical refrigeration plant for any ship. Now refrigeration, where the refrigeration is required, refrigeration for any small vessel, there are refrigeration chambers, and also provision store. Provision store is there for all type of ship. Provision, provision is a livestock or the meat, the food item which is carried by any ship, that is called provisions. All type of food item. For that, the refrigeration plant is required. Mainly two type of plant. One is direct expansion or DX plant, and another is indirect using secondary refrigerant, that is mainly brine chiller, brine. So in large installation like refrigerated cargo, it is difficult to monitor the pipe leakage and all. So DX plant is not advisable. So there we go for this brine chiller. Now in brine, in the big refrigerated cargo vessel, what are the different cargo area we generally refrigerated? Generally, there are different types of cargo. One is frozen cargo, which carries meat, butter, poultry. The temperature ranges from -8 to -18 degrees centigrade. Chilled cargo, which carries cheese, eggs, vegetable, temperature -2 to +6. Cooled cargo is fruit, vegetable, 2 to 13 degree. And so to cool this, brine chiller is used, primary refrigerant is used to cool the brine. Cooled brine is then circulated through the compartment. Brine chosen for this is very normal because of low freezing point, brine is chosen. Cooling is carried out by combination of cold brine and cold air circulation. This diagram is mainly for a DX plant. So this diagram is given, and in this diagram you see for any particular passenger vessel or any medium ship, generally there are three types of provision chambers are there. One is vegetable room, where generally temperature maintained is +2. Then there is fish meat room, where the temperature maintained is -10. There is the freezer room, which carries mainly butter, cheese, where the temperature is -30. So how this temperature are maintained? This is mainly maintained by these solenoid valves. You see every inlet of refrigerant. This is a DX plant. The solenoid valves are there. So this is thermostatically operated solenoid valve, and these valves are opened, closed. The refrigerant is flow of refrigerant is actuated depending on the temperature required inside this compartment. Now ACs we have covered, then refrigeration we have covered. Now come to heating system. So as I already told, ship is required to travel in the extreme weather, extreme cold weather also. So for that, heating system is must. So what type of different heating systems are there in the ship? Mainly there are 4 or 5 types heating system, mainly 4 types, you can say 4 types of heating system. One is electrical heating system, electrical duct heating system. So there is very common and very simple, which is this is the duct heater. There we give the electrical strip heater mounted on AC duct and mainly used for the heating in a particular cabin. If I want to heat a particular cabin or particular area, then this type of duct heater is used. Then central heating with the electrical heater. Then when a big area is required to be heated, a big zone is required to be heated, then instead of putting the heater in the duct, we put the heater in the AHU, air handling unit. So this is for the central heating system with the electrical. Then there is central heating with a hot water or steam coil. The steam heating system, as you know, steam is readily available in ship. So this using the steam, we can have the steam heating coil, the HU, and air is passed on this this steam heater, and it gets heated, and it has got a self-actuating thermostatic valve which controls the flow of steam. So I have given a PNI diagram of heating system. This is the air handler. And these are the steam lines where there are three steam valve, and this is the steam. There are three steam coils which are mounted on this air handling unit, and these steam coils are for three zones which is scattered by this three duct. So this way the steam heating coils operate. And there are fourth system, that is oil heating system, thermal oil heating system. This oil heating system is used in case of very extreme weather, when supposing ship is going through a very minus weather, minus temperature. Then what happens, all system is shut down, and this oil heating system starts, this automatic system. And this oil heating, it is given in the fresh air intake ventilator of each and every compartment. This optional system is there, then it gets switched on and oil heater are on and heating takes place. So this is for the very extreme low temperature cases. So these are the four type of heating which is there in the ship. Now come to mechanical ventilation system. So mechanical ventilation is a very important part of any ship, and there is a lot of standards. And most important is engine room ventilation. This is very critical ventilation system for any ship, engine room ventilation or auxiliary room ventilation or engine room. So I have this is a chart which represent the how many number of air change are required to be given for in case of supply or exhaust. What are the number of air change to be provided compartment wise, area wise? This chart is taken from ISO only. So starting from paint store, engine room, there is application, there is separate formula, separate standard which is there as per ISO 8861, and other compartment are also there. So from this chart, one can easily calculate how much air quantity is required for that particular area or particular chamber, a particular zone. Now, I have taken the excerpts from ISO 8861 to make you understand how the engine room ventilation system of ship is calculated. So for an engine room, the ventilation system is required. Engine room to be required to supply the ventilation air. Every engine room, the supply is required. Now, what is in engine room? Not only main engine, the main propulsion engine is there. Then auxiliary diesel engine there, which gives the power, electric power. Then there is boiler, generator, and major electrical machinery. All these comprises the main engine room. Now, how we calculate the total airflow of a particular total airflow requirement for a particular engine room? To calculate the total airflow, we have to consider the sum of airflow for combustion air, the diesel engine, boiler, and all these things, and some of the airflow necessary for evacuation of the heat emission from this different machinery. So there are two kind of heat. One is combustion heat. So airflow has to take care of combustion heat and the radiation heat. So while calculating the airflow, supply airflow, we have to consider the both. Now this is the formula. Sum of the airflow of combustion air shall be calculated based on this. QC equal to QCP, QCV plus QB. So airflow of combustion is is the airflow from propulsion engine. One is main engine combustion air. One is your for the generator engine airflow combustion. Then airflow for the boiler combustion. So these three all together, this QC is arrived. QC is a total airflow for combustion. So there are formulas for how we arrive at the airflow combustion for the propulsion. The airflow combustion for the diesel engine is calculated using this formula: brake horsepower, then your airflow requirement by rho. These are the simple physics formula. By equating the mass flow, we can calculate how much is the airflow for combustion for diesel engine. Then airflow of combustion for the generator is also calculated in this way: brake horsepower into air mass by rho. So this way, the airflow for combustion for the diesel engine generator is calculated. Similarly, for the boiler, it is calculated by this formula. So it's very easy to understand these formulas. QB is equal to MS, MFG by rho. MS is the total steam consumption. MFG is the fuel consumption. MFG is the air requirement for combustion, air per kg of fuel. So if I multiply that, all this by rho will get the airflow for combustion for boiler. Now, combining all these three, I get the total airflow for combustion, QC. Next, if I want to calculate the how much heat is emitted, heat emission for the evacuation purpose, that how much heat is radiated. For that, this big formula, this looks very big. This formula is used. These are these phi, QA phi are the heat emission from the particular engines, particular generator, particular engines. Then it is divided by rho into C is the specific heat into delta T. I will get the total airflow, and I have to minus 0.4. So minus this heat for combustion, then I will get the airflow for heat emission. So like that way, we have calculated the heat emission. So heat emission is calculated in this way. This is the brake horsepower. This is the heat loss of the diesel engine from the percentage. Because you see, if I want to calculate the heat emission, we have to take the inefficiency part of the heat emitted. So certain portion of the brake horsepower is taken as a heat emission. So that percentage is here. This percentage is taken. And similarly for diesel engine generator also, this is the formula. Similarly for boiler also, this formula is here. So this is very easy to understand. One can go through this and can have the full idea. Then heat emission from the steam and condenser also, like this steam condensate pipe. So in case of steam condensate pipe, we have to take into account delta HP, that is a specific enthalpy of the fuel, that is also required to be taken into consideration. Then heat emission from the electrical alternator, because in generator there are alternator is also there to produce the AC current. So for air-cooled alternator, this is the formula. Same way, the inefficiency part, eta is the efficiency, so inefficiency part is calculated. So like this way, total heat emission is calculated. So heat emission and heat combustion all together, we have this total airflow. Step by step, one can go through this ISO and can calculate the total airflow required, supply airflow required for any engine room. Now, engine room ventilation, one more important thing is that in case of, if most of the engine rooms, this capacity is very high, the air quantity which is required is very high. So one particular fan is not able to supply the entire air quantity. So in that case, multiple fans are used, and to take care of fire, in case of fire, the system has to operate in a reverse direction. So one of the fan is considered to be a reversible fan. So in the case of fire, it will extract the fume or smoke which is generated. So one fan is considered to be a reversible fan. Now, for refrigeration, machinery room space ventilation also, there is formula is there, and for group 1 refrigerant, which is not non-hazardous refrigerant, this is at least exhaust air to be conveyed to the open air independently of the other space ventilating ducting. The inlet ducting shall not be connected to the ventilation system serving to the accommodation space. So it has to be separate. In case of group 2, ammonia, ammonia is a hazardous, is a toxic refrigerant. Ventilation of refrigerant machinery space shall be independent of ventilation system of the other shift space. Ventilation system to be exhaust type only. So, and if one required to calculate how much air change is required for group 1 refrigerant, at least 30 air change per hour is required, and for group 2 like ammonia, this is the calculation given, very simple calculation, V equal to capacity of V is the capacity of fan meter cube per hour, charge of refrigerant in system is m, so cube root of m square. So this is the calculation, but number of air change should not be less than 40. So this is the standard we follow. Now come to ventilation ducting standard. Where ventilation duct is to be made of steel or equivalent material, and the short duct, short piece, not exceeding the length of 2 meter with a cross-sectional area of 0.2 square meter, need not to be steel or equivalent, subject to the some conditions are there that all ducts are not required to be made of steel. The ducts shall be of any material having low flame speed characteristic of type approval. They may be used at the end of ventilation device. They shall not situated less than 600 mm measured along the duct from an opening in A or B class division, including B class ceiling. Flexible below connections are may be used for connecting fans to the ducting to the air conditioning room. So this is for the short. This is for the duct which is whose cross sectional area is not beyond 0.02 square meter. Now, there are ducts provided for ventilation and machinery space, like category A. Category A is the main engine and the main engine room area, galley, ventilation, vehicle space, cargo space. Special category space shall not pass through the accommodation space, service space, or control station unless the ducts are either constructed of steel having thickness of 3 mm and 5 mm of duct, and width and dia of which are up to including 300 mm, 760 mm respectively. So in case of 3 mm, this is 300 mm, and 5 mm is 760 mm respectively. In case such duct, the width and diameter of which between 300 and 760 mm, the thickness has to be obtained by interpolation. So for in between any size between 300 to 760, if I need to arrive the thickness of the duct sheet, we have to do the interpolation. Suitably supported, fitted with automatic fire damper close to the boundary of penetration. insulated to A60 standard from machinery space, galley, vehicle space to the point up to 5 meters beyond the each fire damper. Constructed of steel, suitable, supported, insulated A60 standard through accommodation space. So these are the different ventilation standard which is required to be followed in toto in case of designing the ventilation duct. Similarly, for the ventilation duct penetration piece, so duct penetration piece is a sorry, duct penetration piece. The penetration piece are the pieces which, when the duct is penetrating a particular class of deck or bulkhead, that is called duct penetration piece. So for designing the duct penetration piece, also there are different restriction, different different length, fire safety, fire classification has required to be followed. So one can go through this, like duct penetration through A class division has to be approved type, and when a duct passes through cross section area less than 0.02, then having a thickness of 3 mm, length at least 200 mm divided. So when a duct pierces a particular bulkhead and his cross section is less than 0.02 meter square, then it has to have the penetration piece thickness has to be 3 mm and its length has to be 200 mm and 100 mm on either side of the bulkhead. So this way the penetration piece are made. Similarly, if it is exceeding 0.02 square meter through A class bulkhead, then also it has to be made, the length has to be 900 mm. Okay, and in that case, either side 450 mm, each of side of the bulkhead, the penetration piece has to be there. So this way, different restrictions are there. And this is most important. Ducts with a cross-sectional area exceeding 0.075 square meter shall be always fitted with a fire damper. This is a very important point. If any duct cross-sectional area which is passes through a bulkhead, it has to be fitted with a fire damper. Fire damper shall be automatically operated fire damper. It can be fusible fire damper, fusible link fire damper. It can be your actuator type fire damper, but it has to be capable of closing manually from both the sides of the bulkhead or deck. Both the side, it has to be manually operated in case of failure of the damper, automatic damper. Damper shall be provided with the indication and all this stuff. Now, ventilation duct where the free cross section is exceeding 0.02 square meter passing to B class bulkhead. These are the upper points were with A class bulkhead. Now, if it passes to B class bulkhead, then also 900 mm steel sheet sleeve is required, and each side 450 mm. Now, some standard about ventilator combing. Before that, I would like to give one standard I want to let you know, that is load line requirement. Load line requirement is a requirement. The load line is one convention which classifies the position of any unit or any particular area location based on the particular distance. So position 1 means from this point, from the end point to 1/4 of the length of the total, if the total length of the ship, if it is measured vertically like this, then 25%, that is 1/4 of the length, this is called position 1, and which is measured from the forward part of the ship. This is position 1, and balance part is called position 2. So now what is combing? Combing is any vertical surface or vertical any post which is there on the freeboard side, any other deck also, other deck. So which is mainly there to prevent the entry of the water into ventilation duct. So any duct which is connected to the particular room, and when it has to be exhausted or air to be taken inside, so it has to go through this combing in the exposed side, in the weather deck or other decks. So this there is standard for this ventilation combing. What will be the height? What will be the height in the position 1 and position 2? In case of position 1, the height of this ventilator combing is required to be 900 mm when there is this ventilation combing as a closing device. When it is closed, fully closed, then the height of the combing is required is 900 mm. And in position 2, this height is requirement of this height is 760 mm. When there is a closing device, when this ventilator, this combing has a closing arrangement. Now, if the height of this combing is in position 1 is 4.5 meter, then no closing device is required. It can be fully open also. No closing is required. In position 2, it is the height requirement is 2.3 meter. So in that case, no closing device is required. Now, water tightness, as I already told you, water tightness is most important part of any ship. So it has to be most of the exposed deck fittings has to be watertight. So these are the some common watertight fittings which is a part of the ventilation system. This particular piece is called, this particular weather fitting is called gooseneck ventilator. It is like a gooseneck. So, and there is a closing device, closing grill here to where it can be used as an exhaust or supply also. It can take air like this or it can be used for exhaust. This is called mushroom head ventilator, mushroom ventilator. So there is a rotating wheel, and beneath this there is a closing or opening arrangement. By this opening of the wheel or closing of the wheel, this can be closed or this can be opened. And this is very common item, the fitting. This is called watertight cover with a grill with watertight cover. Now these are the grill, and there is a closing device, is a watertight cover. So mainly these three type of watertight closing appliance is used for ventilation system. Okay, thank you very much for your kind patience hearing. Somojit?
Yeah, thank you, Rijana. So I request you, we got some questions. Till that time, if you can just type your email ID in the chat box for everyone to have an idea and get in touch with you later.
Chat, okay.
Yes, and I'll ask the questions. So we are taking the questions which have been printed till now, till Mr. Shubhankar Chatterjee's last question. After that, we can people can connect directly to you on your mail. Okay, I'll start with the questions.
Okay.
So from Mr. Piyush Singh, the question is advantages of using semi-hermetic compressor for refrigeration, and what are the advantages over belt-driven?
Okay. The advantage of semi-hermetic compressor and belt-driven compressor, there is no difference for land and sea. This is applicable. This is the basic functionality of the compressor. The belt-driven compressor, there is possibility of slippage of the belt, and this can happen. Mainly for the open type compressor, this is used. But in case of semi-hermetic compressor, this is This is sealed type of compressor. This is, compressor and motor is totally a particular enclosed box, you can say. And in semi-hermetic compressor, the compressor and winding can be, can be isolated. Two part can be isolated. So compressor can be taken out. Compressor winding can be taken out. So that is the advantage of semi-hermetic compressor. And open type compressor, major disadvantage is a belt driven, the possibility of the belt slippage and all this stuff.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
yeah.
So next question is from Pratikda. Apart from the material of construction, what are the major difference between marine chiller compared to marine and building chiller? The difference apart from construction material.
Apart from the construction material that I have already covered, so mainly marine chiller. In case of land chiller, we can control the condenser water temperature. That can be controlled by designing the cooling tower in a very efficient manner. You can have the control of the approach. You can have the approach temperature control. All these can be achieved. But in case of marine chiller, we don't have any control of temperature. Condenser water temperature is a sea water temperature, which is at the sea, that is at generally at 32 degrees centigrade. So, this is the main difference. So we cannot have control over condenser water temperature in case of marine chiller. In case of land chiller, we can have the control over the condenser temperature. This is one part, and other part is in case of chiller also.
Normally, what type of insulation used in marine air conditioning system?
We'll come to the question.
I'll come to that.
Let us go one by one, please.
Okay.
I'll come to that. And in case of marine chiller, DX type of chiller is majorly used because especially for the Navy and all, because they prefer DX type of chiller, not flooded chiller, because if the leakage, the refrigerant is in the shell in case of flooded chiller, so a lot of problem can happen. So they prefer this type of chiller, and maintainability is in case of any problem, as you know, ship is selling. So maintenance is a big problem. So equipment to be selected in an optimized way so that to less defect, less problem. So in that case, mainly DX chillers are used in case of marine. DX evaporator.
The next question is from Mr. Shubhankar, quite many questions. I'll go one by one. What is the diversity factor with respect to entire system design? Also the factor of safety taken at the time of system design.
Okay. Diversity factor, of course, if you see the equipment selection, heat load has got is inbuilt diversity we take for the similar to land air conditioning, marine air conditioning also we take the diversity. And for the equipment selection also, AHU selection and secondary system selection also we take the diversity. This is almost in line with the land air conditioning. So in terms of diversity, there is no such differentiation between marine and land air conditioning.
Okay. Next is in which part of the system the 25% of fresh air is treated as the load of chiller will increase?
25% of the fresh air load, which I told you, 25% fresh air is considered while doing the heat load calculation. So that is already inbuilt. So when I arrive at the DOE divide air CFM calculation, there itself that particular DOE divide, the fresh air is already taken care of. So there is particular area or something like that which is there, the treated fresh air. So that fresh air is already inbuilt in the AHU itself. So of course we fresh air for the AHU, that fresh air is already taken. So
and it is already inbuilt in the system design, the 25% ratio.
Okay.
No other separate here.
Okay. The next question: is there any equipment to treat the seawater?
Yeah, seawater treatment. Not seawater treatment. Yeah, there is sewage treatment plant. The seawater treatment plant is there. Make the sewage treatment plant is there to make the seawater edible. That plant is there, but it is nothing to do with our system. Our system is for our chiller system. Condenser operates on condenser water, that is seawater, and this operate on the fresh water, that is once filled in the system that get recirculated. So no other treatment is no other seawater treatment plant is there in our system. Is required for our system.
Okay. Then next question is what are the anti-vibration isolation part used in all equipment like chiller and the pump, etc.
Yes, it's a vast subject.
Okay.
Mainly cushy foot type anti-vibration mounting, cushy foot. One can refer to different books or catalogs or in Google's also. One can Google also. Mainly cushy foot type anti-vibration mounting pad is used for chiller mounting, EHU mounting, any big equipment mounting. This kind of mounting is used, cushy foot type mounting.
Okay. Next question is what is the velocity of air at the time of designing for AC vent or ventilation? Is it the same as building HVAC?
Yeah, it is almost same as the building HVAC, but one difference is that there are in case of AC system in the ship, mainly we use the spiral duct. Mainly we use the spiral duct or there is circular duct. So circular duct one can understand, calculate from the ductulator using this
Hello.
friction method. Constant friction method.
Hello.
You can
Normally,
switch off the tell me.
hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Normally, for central unit system, what type of chiller used in air cool or water cool? And my second question is,
We'll come on. Yeah. Tell me. I'll just note down. Then
my second question is, what type of insulation normally used in marine system?
Yeah.
okay.
We'll come to that. There's a question, same question there. We'll come to the once we finish all
Yeah,
the questions in the chat box, we'll come to your questions also. Okay, please. Okay, next question. Next question is from Mr. Samuel Sutradhar. What kind of metals are used and what kind of insulation materials are used in the ship?
What kind of metal?
Metals are used to make a ship, and what kind of
what kind of metal? Okay. Metal. Ship is made of, the hull of the ship is made of steel. So this steel also has got different classes of this grade or classes of steel, which is used for various part during the construction of the hull. One can refer DNV standard where it is mentioned categorically during the construction of the ship. What are the different areas? What are the different decks, bulkhead, the bottom plate? What is the construction and what is the thickness of the material, particular material? And mainly steel alloys are used. Without very high grade steel alloys are used for the construction of the ship. And there are 1, 2, 3 different classes of construction. Where it specifies the actual which material of alloy is required to be used for the particular area. So one can refer to standard for this more details on that.
And the insulation materials, please.
Insulation material. Insulation material has to be combustible and non-combustible material. It has to be used. So for marine, for our HVAC system, the insulation which is used is a nitrile rubber, class O, non-fire, fireproof. That material is used. And if you talk about the panels or deck bulkhead, they are also, as I mentioned, A-class bulkhead, B-class bulkhead, different insulation material is used. That also has different grades. So mainly non-combustible materials are used, and fireproof materials are used.
Okay. Next question is what kind of filters used in FA and ventilation intake, pipe and duct supports,
Yeah,
the joints for marine place application?
yeah.
The two questions actually: filters and pipe and duct supports and the joints for marine application.
Okay. Now coming to first point, that is marine filter system. So filter system has, so now we have the AHU. AHU has a normal pre-filter, but I was going through a study where cruise ship, there is a recent study which is given by IMO, International Maritime Organization. They are specifying key there is huge pollution is taking place, huge pollution because of the ship engine emission. A lot of particulate emission which is taking place out of this engine, that is creating a lot of pollution in the ship, and for that they are recommending HEPA filter in AHU also. This is a recent study has come up. So I mean, normally we don't give any HEPA filter in HU or in the terminal, but the recent study for the very luxurious ship, one can give 3 stage of filtration, pre, micro, HEPA, but normally we don't give that. Now there are some areas where we give the air filtration unit, like very in Navy ship, there are very special zone like magazine storeroom, ammunition storeroom. There, high level of filtration is required. So there we give the AFU air filtration unit. Also, for just knowledge purpose, in marine ship, in naval ship, there we give NBC type filter, that is nuclear, biological, and chemical filter, which is in case of war. In case of war, this filter unit will get energized. Normally, it will not get energized. In case of any extreme condition, when there is nuclear war, chemical war, biological war, so in that condition, only these filter units will get energized, and air will be taken through this filter unit only. Then entire AC system, ventilation system will be shut off. So this is very special application, and this complies to some SANAC 447, some marine standard, so naval standard is there, which is applicable throughout the world. This NBC filter is used. So this is for the very special application. Otherwise, normal pre-filter is okay, no problem. But although now IMO is preferring HEPA filter also, even they are specifying air purifier in passenger area for the cruise ship especially. So air purifier has HEPA filter. Yeah, and there is one more question.
Pipe and duct support and the joints.
Pipe.
Yeah.
Pipe support, see, pipe means chilled water pipe or condenser water pipe. Support joint is as usual like land, but here the joints are welded joint because ship structure is a steel structure. So whatever joints has to be gritted in the to the base has to be welded or bolted, or it has to be welded basically, and for condenser water pipe, for the chilled water pipe, also this is MS pipe. And but in many ship, like Navy ship, condenser chilled water pipe also is done, recommended to be done with the copper pipe nowadays. So copper pipe kind of support which we give, similar type of support is applicable here also.
Okay. The next question is, I think you already answered. There was still this was question before you started discussing on the duct. It's like balance. Now, how do we balance sizing of ducts and noise management, and what velocity of air is generally permissible?
Duct duct sizing and everything is as per our land air conditioning standard. There is only the difference is it's a round duct instead of rectangular duct. So if one want to do the duct calculation with the ductulator with a constant friction method, so he can jollyably can calculate what is the dia of the duct is required, or what is the, because in ship mostly it is round duct because of the space constraint. So diameter of the round duct can easily be obtained from ductulator, and the velocity is almost similar. I mean, like for the main duct, it is 1500 fpm. In the branch duct, it is less 1000. The terminal, it is 500 fpm or 600 fpm. This is the normal standard which is applicable for land also.
Okay, there was a question
And
from Amita earlier. If reversible fan is used, CFM, exhaust or supply to be considered, the CFM to be considered to select the fan. Is reversible fan can deliver same quantity of air in both directions? So there are two questions. One is the
yeah, for first, what is the CFM of the reversible fan?
yes.
The CFM of the reversible fan, you see, the reversible fan is a fan, in my understanding, which can rotate in the two different direction and can supply as well as exhaust. So it is mainly used for the engine room, as I already told, because engine room total calculation I have given. I have already shown you how the engine room ventilation calculation is done. So in that case, one fan may not suffice the entire engine room ventilation. There may be multiple of fan, but in case of fire, for the extraction of the fume, especially when the gas type fire insulation items are there, so to exhaust the gas out of the engine room, so this reversible fan is used. And the CFM calculation is total engine room CFM calculation I have already shown, and this is one can go through ISO 8861. From there he can calculate the total CFM, and total CFM he can divide one or two fans based on the capacity of the total engine room air quantity coming. Then he can select the reversible fan. And of course, reversible fan extraction will be same as of supply, in my understanding. But whoever, Amitavo is from Kruger. He has asked the question.
No, Amitabh Datto, our program chief.
Okay.
Okay, so now I've got last two questions. Before that, your email ID is nirjar_chakraborty@yahoo.com, correct?
Yes, correct.
I'll just forward it to everybody. Okay, last two questions before we wind up. What type of work
Yeah.
for chiller safety from shaking of the ship?
What type of chiller safety?
What type of work is done for the chiller safety due to shaking
Okay.
of the ship? Shaking of the ship.
Yes. For the safety, one is mounting, special type of mounting are used beneath the chiller plant. This is number one. Number two is that so that the liquid chiller is not accumulated in the condenser, we have two outlet from the condenser, refrigerant outlet, to have the smooth flow of the refrigerant. So basically, these two things are taken care of. Special type of mounting and both way outlet from the condenser refrigerant. And also in some cases, a marine water box also used so that it can divert the water in a particular direction. Marine water box is also used. So these are some safety items which are installed in the chiller.
Okay, the last question. how do you protect the condenser fins? There's air cooled condenser for the air cooled chiller from seawater corrosion actually.
See, as I already told you, for sea or saline water weather, air-cooled condenser is not at all advisable. Is not at all advisable. But there are some like split AC, split ACs and all. As I already told you, the small boats and yachts still they are operating with a split AC for the particular cabin. So in that case, air-cooled condenser is required to be given. So special coating is required. As for land also, we give for coastal area, we give the special type of coating, special type of paint is used on the condenser, fin, coil. So similar type of things is used for the condenser coil and fins also. And one advantage of marine, maintenance part is there. In ship, there is always a marine engineers are there who can maintain the thing regularly on regular interval. They can do day in day out. They can maintain the plant. So maintenance is much better in ship than land. So there is total engineering staffs are available, so they can maintain the thing very well.
Thank you, Nirjada. It was a wonderful presentation. And I'm sure a lot of people, including me, have got a lot of knowledge. We are all students here because this subject is very, very new to a lot of us. And we had a very
Thank
good,
you so much. Thank you very much.
and we had a good insight of this. And it was a pleasure having you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.